Hello, book lovers, and welcome to Book Talk Radio Club. My name is Claire Harris, and today I'm talking to author Bob Pierce. Bob says about his books, "My books are typically set in real places and enveloped in real history. Though I hesitate to use the term, they can be categorized as historical fiction of one sort or other. From the Old West to rural England, to the streets of Prague, Moscow, New York, and the troubles of Northern Ireland. Each one is a tour of good and evil, bravery and triumph, and reviews frequently repeat that they are engaging page-turners that readers just cannot walk away from. Today we will be talking about Blood on the Mosque. Hi Bob, thank you for coming to talk to me on Book Talk Radio Club.
Hi Claire, thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Blood on the Mosque, a murder of no consequence. Bob, would you like to give Book Talk Radio Club's listeners a brief synopsis?
Well, without giving too much of it away, it's a murder mystery. The only daughter of a powerful Russian government official is found murdered execution style in an exclusive seaside resort in Croatia. The Kremlin sees it as an opportunity to sweep away an embarrassing antagonist who has very publicly lobbied her father for certain international trade concessions. FSB Detective Yuri Rosenov and the 4 senior members of his Vori section team are called to Moscow by his superiors to arrest a particular Vori mob boss for the murder. The Kremlin has no real evidence to support the case, so he and his team see this involvement as just a political media circus. Instead, he sets his team to work on their own investigation, amassing a list of suspects that includes the victim's self-destructive narcissistic friends, drug dealers, political operatives, mobsters, the young woman's numerous lovers, the owners of a particularly depraved Moscow nightclub, spies, and the mob boss whom the Kremlin had first accused. They even include her own father. Through the insight of deduction, political maneuvering, enhanced interrogation methods, and old-fashioned police work, the list is winnowed away until justice is finally and painfully won.
Why the murder of no consequence bit?
Well, the young woman is considered a political means to an end.
Right.
She matters very little as a person, and her murder is seen by the Kremlin as a convenient turn of events, as she is essentially disposable. But Detective Rosenov, however, he has a deep-seated credo: justice has a face, so he won't allow her to be forgotten.
A character generally needs to be likeable in order for readers to connect with their story. Detective Yuri Rosenov, what kind of man is he?
Rosenov is a man of high ideals and unassailable integrity. He's a country boy at heart, born and raised on his parents' farm in the Siberian countryside. He was brought up with the fundamental values of family, faith, and truth above all, where a man's word is his bond. He learned about moral strength of character and the love of community. He's willing to stand up for what he believes in, risking reprisals and censure, and he's not afraid to stand up for the oppressed and those unfairly accused. He's an affable and trusted leader, and he directs his team with a quiet wisdom and the authority of his years of experience. He's someone people can relate to. He's someone I'd like to be like when I grow up.
Detective Yuri Rosenov and his FSB Vori section team are called to Moscow to arrest the Russian mobster, boss of bosses, suspected of murdering a beautiful young woman of privilege, the only daughter of a powerful minister of the Russian Duma. Firstly, what is the FSB Vori section, and secondly, what is the Russian Duma?
Well, to begin with, the FSB is the Russian equivalent of America's FBI, sort of.
Right.
It's a national investigative agency that replaced the KGB after Perestroika.
Mm-hmm.
The Vori is the Russian mob, which is often erroneously called the Russian mafia in Hollywood. The Vori grew as an underworld crime institution within the Soviet Gulag system, and when Mikhail Gorbachev closed them, the various Vori cells were released across Russia and established themselves in most of their major cities and now around the world. Yuri Rosenov's Vori section is a task force dedicated to investigating mob activities, hunting down gangsters, and bringing them to justice using whatever means they may need to. And the Russian Duma is one of the primary bodies of the Russian government. It's
Mm.
a body of representatives from throughout the country that meet in Moscow. And the victim's father is the Minister of International Commerce serving in that Duma.
Ah, right. So your books are set anywhere from the Old West to the troubles of Northern Ireland. What made you choose Russia as a backdrop for this book?
Russia is a vast and mysterious place. Across its expanse are numerous people groups and cultures, most of which are alien to those of us in the West.
Mm.
I've been fascinated by Russia since I was a kid, and we were all convinced that they were going to drop an atom bomb on our heads at any moment.
Yep.
But duck and cover, remember that? But I've found out over my lifetime that people and cultures and circumstances all over the world are very much the same. By setting a story in an exotic locale, the environment becomes a part of the story, and it sort of sensitizes the reader to the many plots that are woven through it. A murder mystery can happen in any city, but it's so much more enticing when it happens on a luxurious train riding through Europe, or a boat cruising down the Nile,
True.
or an exotic country like Russia.
Mm-hmm.
There's always the possibility that something sinister is waiting around any corner at any time.
I would imagine quite a bit of research needed to be carried out prior to writing the book. Did you do most of the research online, or have you actually been to Russia?
Well, I've never been to Russia, but it is on my bucket list.
Uh-huh.
My wife is Russian,
Okay.
and she has a lot of anecdotal information from her parents and her grandmother, her baba, who didn't speak a word of English, by the way. She also subscribes to a Russian periodical that looks at the modern day culture and the people and art of Russia. And a fair amount of research is done online, but one has to be discerning to weed out what to believe and what not to.
Absolutely.
I've learned to corroborate everything that I find online before it's ever included in any of my books.
You have a number of photographs in Blood on the Mosque. They're quite unusual these days for a work of fiction. Why did you decide to add the photos?
Writing, I believe, is an art form.
Yes.
And I believe that a physical book is a complete package of artistic expression. The illustrations throughout my books help to maintain the tone and the aesthetic from chapter to chapter. In this particular book, many of the photos show broken people who are caught up in this depraved, self-destructive storm, and most of which are women. That's the real culture over there, especially in cities like Moscow. And because it's so alien to our Western culture, the photos continually reinforce just who the peripheral victims of this crime are.
That's interesting. That's an interesting way of looking at it. Let's talk a little bit about you now, Bob Pierce, author and painter. You're obviously a very creative man. Where do you write and paint? Do you have a special place?
Well, my wife and I are empty nesters, and we live in northern Vermont, not far from the Canadian border.
Right.
And we have a spare bedroom, which is my studio.
Okay.
Part of it's my writing space, surrounded by shelves full of books, notes, computer junk, and all kinds of assorted inspirational tidbits. And the other part of the room is dominated by my drafting table, where I paint, work on various illustrations and props for the photos that appear in the books.
Right.
And in the middle of it all is my stereo with my collection of classic blues and jazz CDs.
So what kind of painting do you enjoy creating?
I used to paint a lot of images of vintage sports cars and racing cars, sold them at various national events and galleries.
Right.
But in recent years, that market has kind of evaporated, so I've been painting people, just regular people doing regular things. But to be honest, since engrossing myself in writing over the past decade or so, except for the occasional commission, the painting thing has sort of taken a back seat these days.
Do you not paint for yourself for relaxation?
Oddly enough, I write for relaxation.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm constantly in the creative mood.
There's also an inspiration from an early age for the love of reading. What or who inspired you to write, and the genre of books in which you do write?
Well, I had a couple of particularly encouraging teachers when I was in high school.
That's good.
One of them was a charismatic history teacher who really fueled my passion for history of all sorts. And the other was a quirky English teacher who had a short story class that I took. She had us reading Edgar Allan Poe, Washington Irving, and Ray Bradbury, which is quite an eclectic mix. And after that, after I graduated, I started filling notebooks with handwritten stories and found the creative process intoxicating. I learned to write scene by scene, which is kind of the structure that my books take, by analyzing movies and developing strategies that make the books obsessive page turners.
Right. That's interesting. I noticed on your website that you offer a video series called From the Studio. Who are the video series aimed at, and what's it all about?
Well, a few years ago, I partnered up with another indie author. We did a series of live seminars for aspiring authors on how to get their books written and self-published.
Okay.
And the video series is an outgrowth of those seminars. It's not a writing course per se. It doesn't show how to write, but rather gives ideas and tips on how to get it written.
Right.
To get a story idea from an idea to a published book. We so often heard people lament to us that they'd written and rewritten that first few chapters over and over again for years and just can't get past that.
Right.
I share in these videos the strategies that I use to have written now. This is my 13th book, going on 14, in just about as many years. The videos are free. The idea is to encourage other aspiring writers and give them the tools that they need to get their projects done.
Back to Blood on the Mosque. So here we've got a review. Just finished Blood on the Mosque. I think it's your best one yet. Lots of characters and they were very well developed. I loved it. Praise indeed, Bob. But what motivates you to continue writing? The reviews or the sales, and why?
Well, another comment that I got was that the Butcher of Grozny that appears in this book is giving the reader nightmares, and followed with their thanks. And I love to hear the accolades, of course,
Sure.
and who wouldn't love to have, tons of books sold, but to be honest, what really motivates me is the artistic passion, the creative muse. I find it like a drug. Once I finish one project, I'm already moving on to the next one. In fact, I'm usually doing research for the next one while I'm still writing the last one. I actually kind of suck at the marketing thing because I'm an artist with an artist's heart. I want to be at that keyboard or at the drafting table working on illustrations or something, just following that muse all the time.
So what's next for author Bob Pierce?
Well, like I said, there's always the next project. And the next one happens at another mysterious, exotic location, Area 51.
Oh, cool.
It's, yeah, you've heard of that in England, right?
Well, I think so, yeah.
Yeah. It's it's filled with government conspiracies and lies, and it's the story of the right guy at the wrong time who's selected by the government to be their mark in a high-tech sting operation. They crush him and his family, and in the process, they destroy his life. And in the end, it's a love story.
Okay.
We'll talk about that one next year.
So where can Book Talk Radio Club's listeners purchase Blood on the Mosque and, of course, all your other books?
Well, all of them are available on Amazon.com. There's more information on each of the ones that are available and links to them on my website, bobsawesomebooks.com, where there's also a link and a separate page you can go to find those videos.
Right. Okay, well, look, thank you, Bob. Please come back on Book Talk Radio Club. I'd love to chat with you and hear more. In the meantime, good luck for the future, and thank you, everyone, for listening to Book Talk Radio Club. Lovely to speak to you, Bob.
Thank you so much, Claire.
Okay, bye now.